This video was recorded live on my Twitch channel. Check out all of my live streams down in the description below.
The Historic Racing Car Cup, an event aimed at racing cars built in 1979 or earlier. Other cars can also enter as long as they are old enough and meet the performance point requirements. So, Monaco, Apricot Hill, and Silverstone. If you guys know me, and you guys are not new to the channel, you guys know that I like to choose really stupid cars. This might be the dumbest car I've ever chosen in any Gran Turismo game ever. We're going to go to Europe. We're going to go to Audi. And we're going to purchase the 1937 Auto Union V16 Type C Streamline. What in the hell? This thing. Now, this car appears in Gran Turismo 4. In the international releases, meaning United States and PAL. It does not appear in the Japanese version of that game, and you can't use it anywhere. This is a standard car. This is the second of possibly 3 standard cars we're going to use in this game. Yeah. Pretty much, you can only use it at the Nürburgring. I think it was like one of those cars that tried to break like the speed record or something, and I think the driver died, if I'm not mistaken. So anyways, GT Auto, once you got your hands on the car of your dreams, you'll need to keep it well maintained. This is the place to come if you want to keep things in top tip condition. Yes, okay. We're going to change the oil on this car. Anyone who doesn't know, who hasn't played a Gran Turismo game since GT3 A-Spec, anytime you change the oil, you get a horsepower boost. We're going to need horsepower for this thing. Why? Because although this car is fast, what this car does not have is cornering, because it's a land speed car. And I'm gonna have to do some serious adjustments to the setup of the car for all 3 of these races. Yeah, the Auto Union is fucking terrible. It's kind of self-explanatory. I mean, it is a freaking speed land speed car, I think I said that in the intro. I'm not really sure, but anyways, I found a setup on GT Planet. This is my second setup that I actually have found. I tried another setup here, and yeah, I found a different one, which seems like it's more suited for, like, racing around Monaco, because it's recommending that we go and drive, you know, we put the gearing very low and very tight, but yeah, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and make the adjustments now. If this works out, I'm going to go ahead and link the actual setup in the description below this video, and if you want to be batshit insane enough to give it a try. Let's go ahead and give this a go once again. I tried like 20 times or so to win Monaco. Not like with the baseline setup, trying to just yeet it around the hairpin, which, if I didn't mention before, the hairpin is the trouble spot of this car. Like, it's impossible to make the hairpin. But I tried to yeet it, tried to do some like cheesing strats, and it didn't really work out too well. But our field here is basically a 2J, a 2D. All these cars. Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and give this another go. Hopefully this turns out better. Hopefully this setup is good. We'll find out in a bit. This right here, this particular race with this car is one of the things I hate the most in the world. Now, why did I decide to do this? Well, first off, let me go ahead and just address the elephant in the room here. I'm doing post commentary for these races because this race literally drove me to... It drove me mad. This race in particular took me 4 hours. 4 straight hours of torture driving this car around Monaco. I'm insane. I have no reason to do this at all, but here we are. Yeah. As you can see, we got ourselves a really good start. Got around the Camaro and one of the Cobras, or maybe both Cobras. I wasn't paying attention. Normally around here in this first hairpin, we were stuck behind the GT40 and the Corvette there, but in this particular case, we weren't. So check this out. Second gear in the hairpin, e-brake, full 900-degree steering, or like full steering all the way to the left, completely locked the wheel and everything. And in order to turn this car, even with the setup, you literally have to crank so much input into the steering wheel. So for example, let's say at the hairpin, you normally cross your arms or whatever. Let's say you cross the, your arms on the steering wheel. No, you literally have to turn the wheel all the way. Just to make a regular 90-degree corner, you have to turn the steering wheel like 300 degrees in one direction. That's what makes it so tricky, especially at Monaco. It's not easy driving this car. It's brutal. So imagine driving a car that can't turn, even with a setup that's meant for tight city street racing, and just, yeah, this hairpin right here. So it's kind of weird. I mean, like the entry is tight, and even with the open exit, like you can't really get the car steered all the way, so you have to kind of like crawl at a snail's pace. But yeah, I should also mention too that I went ahead and put the power all the way back to 100% for this race, and yeah, making a move on the Ford GT here. Or GT40 Mark IV, I should say. And I was only in this position once before. In one of my attempts, the AI, the Chaparral 2J in first place, yeah, it's on pole. It took me out. It took me out in the last corner, last lap. It spun me around. So as you can see, like I said, second gear hairpin, and just tight, and just mashing the e-brake at the right time. If you go into first gear, you'll just get too much wheel spin. Even with smashing the e-brake, because of the wheel spin you'll get with the car will just basically lock up and just go straight into the wall. Once you're straight into the wall, even backing up, like you cannot turn the car. Wall riding doesn't work. You get stuck in the wall. You don't have enough momentum to ride around the wall in the hairpin there. It took me a while to figure out the actual strat for mashing the e-brake. So through the swimming section we go. Make a move on the Ferrari 330. Now we got the Chaparral 2D right in front of us. We're doing pretty good here. I'd say this is like our best performance so far. Like, well, duh. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on this YouTube video. But in terms of actual overall performance, like, I was still stuck behind like the GT40 Mark IV by this point of the race, like in all my other attempts whenever I cleared the hairpin. It literally took me like 2.5 hours to 3 hours to figure out the e-brake strat. But yeah, coming up the hill, as you can see, we're closing on the 2J. Not the best line through that corner, but it'll do. AI does slow down quite a bit, even though they're in the 2J. I mean, we're at Monaco after all, so that's helping us out. And through the first hairpin here, you can take a relatively tight line. It's just around here that, second gear, just stay in second gear for God's sake. I didn't get a really good run through the hairpin there, but I still had enough space to at least crawl without getting onto the wall. Because like I said, once you're stuck in the wall, you're stuck there for good. Like, you cannot get out of it because of the lack of steering in this car. So Nouvelle Chicane. Really close to the wall there in the entry. The exit was a bit sketch. Got on the sausages, but we made it through just fine. And at this point, I did lose one of the races before, like around lap 3, being behind the 2D by actually crashing into the Nouvelle Chicane. So I would say at this point, and also the fact that we were spun out by the 2J in front, made me kind of paranoid. I was just like, okay, yeah, right here we have a really bad run through the hairpin, which gave him a lot of breathing room, but we gained it all back, as you'll see right now. But I was pretty paranoid at this point. I was just like, you know what? I just need to get by the 2J as quickly as I can, preferably before the hairpin. So let's see if we can make that happen. So final lap. Decent run through T1, going up the hill for the final time. Of course, the shortened gears are helping us out quite a bit. I brake a little early for T2, which earlier than usual, I should say, just to make sure I get a good line up to third gear, just to make sure that I don't get any wheel spin. Into the first hairpin we go, and I realized at this point, okay, I failed at catching the 2J, so I'm going to stay behind him. I'm not going to bother going for a lunge or anything. I just want to make it through the actual hairpin here. That was actually a really good entry into the corner. So out of that section, we actually pass him here. And I'm like, okay, I got to make sure the 2J does not get past me. And that's why I go to bumper cam here for a little bit and just mirror drive. And because I'm paranoid about the 2J taking me out, I give him enough room. I don't try to like close the door or anything because the 2J is really aggressive around here. So through the Nimbo chicane, we're just fine. I'll go for a defensive line. Into the swimming pool section for the final time. And once again, a defensive line. I keep defending. I just make sure that the 2J does not get any chance to get around me. And I don't try blocking either. The hairpin here, that's where I got taken out last time. So I'm at a snail's pace. I'm just crawling. I'm like, okay, go up side by side with me. I don't care. I hold him up just a little bit. Tap the wall, but at that point, I was just more relieved than excited for the victory because, Jesus Christ, I spent 4 hours doing this race, and we barely finished just a little bit less than a tenth of a second over margin of victory over the 2J. This race itself, this race was so brutal. It was one of the worst things I've ever did. I just kind of sat there and just looked at the results screen like, we really made this happen? We really made this happen here, huh? And I took a screenshot for Instagram and for Twitter just to show off and be like, never again, not doing this ever again. This is stupid. Why did I decide to do this? Fuck this car. Fuck myself for deciding that this was a good idea. So 44K, 3 stars, and moving on to race number 2. So yes, race number 2, Apricot Hill Raceway. I went ahead and went back to the special stage Route 5 setup, which I don't know if I mentioned in the actual live recording, air quote live as in like me actually doing it in person while playing, that I went ahead and found a Monaco setup. But in case I didn't, yeah, I went back to the special stage Route 5 setup that I found because obviously both Apricot Hill and Silverstone are closer to Route 5 than Monaco ever would be. But yes, while the steering problems are still here and present, the actual racing itself wasn't too bad because, unlike Monaco, of course, Apricot Hill Raceway is much wider. And it is quite a technical track, yes, and the chicane is quite deadly, but it was manageable. I only lost once. I only had to redo this race one time, and that was because I got taken out by the pole sitter, which was a Toyota 7 race car. Are we sensing a trend here where the leader takes us out in our auto union because of jealousy, I suppose, of us being able to drive a 1930s pre-World War II race car and beating Can-Am cars, I guess? Perhaps, but yeah, there's not really much to say about this race. I guess just enjoy my actual win, and obviously I'll show off the money and the stars, and then once we're done with that, we'll move on to race number 3. So, race number 3, Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Setup is the same as I mentioned before, and I extended the gears just a tiny little bit, so I wouldn't hit the red limiter so easily. So, with this race, we did chase cam, and Silverstone was the easiest of the bunch. Not only because the Toyota 7 was missing from this race, and the Chaparral 2J was the pole sitter, but mainly because it's a much wider track than Apricot Hill is. So, a lot easier to do. Once again, 2 tries for this one, and the same reason as before, because the 2J actually took us out. Final corner, final lap. Again, are we sensing a theme here? But I'll just leave you with the footage, and yeah, enjoy our again 1930s pre-World War II race car going around this World War II air base. I think Silverstone was, if I'm not mistaken. It was some sort of like World War II air base that turned into a racetrack. Kind of reminds me of Sebring in that sense, where like Sebring was an airport turned into a racetrack, like a permanent road course, which is pretty neat. It's always cool when you hear those kind of backstories. But yeah, enjoy the footage, and I'll get back to you when we're done with the race. And there we go. Small margin of victory over the 2J, just like the actual Monaco race. Even tighter finish, but the race itself was easier. I mean, the 2J had the massive advantage on the straightaways, but thankfully with the wider nature of Silverstone compared to Monaco, we didn't really have to worry too much about getting taken out, or we didn't have to worry too much about just trying to make any corners. Like, cornering around here was the easiest of the three. But nevertheless, I don't know which thumbnail I'm going to be using. I still have to take photos in the actual photo mode for the thumbnail. I'm doing this post commentary before I do any of that, of course. But that's the historic Racing Car Cup complete. Sorry there wasn't much commentary, but I literally had to, do post commentary because of the fact that I was so upset. 59% of the way down, and this is the final episode with us doing it off screen on or offline, I should mean. We go back in the next episode with GT All-Stars to live streaming on Twitch, because at this point I had my internet back and it's working just fine now and everything. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care now.